Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing a heavy topic, so I just want to put forth a trigger warning. This is going to be discussing sextortion, which is a crime that involves blackmail and exploitation. So I made a video about my childhood sexual exploitation story about a year ago, but today I wanted to talk a little bit more about the effects that it had on my life, as well as how my victimization lasted as long as it did, and also touch on some other questions that I've received. This story is really heavy, but the reason I share it is because it's incredibly important. The amount that this crime occurs is insane and really heartbreaking. But with the increase of children access to social media and the increase of perpetrators being able to access children on social media has created an astronomical amount of children who experience this type of victimization. My victimization lasted for 92 consecutive days. A lot of people ask me, how in the world did it last 92 days? Like, how did you not tell someone sooner? How did you not go and report them sooner? I was absolutely terrified. I highly recommend watching the video that I posted a year ago to get the full story of my sextortion, which I will put right here. You can click the link and watch that video first. If you have seen my video on my childhood sexual exploitation that I posted over a year ago, you know that I was a 15-year-old girl and experienced this while I was in high school by a classmate who had stolen the identity of one of my friends who I also had a crush on at the time. So it was very deliberate by this person, very manipulative. And I also want to go more into the stalking part of my case and my story. So in the video that I filmed over a year ago, I explained that for the purpose of this video, I had the name of my friend whose identity was stolen as Dave, and my perpetrator, the person that sextorted me, as Todd. So we'll continue to use those names so it doesn't get confusing. Todd, the real perpetrator, who I was also classmates with, stalked me during this entire time as well. He was my friend for a period of time, would come over to my house, so very much knew where I lived, which was a threat that then as the persona Dave used to keep me silent for those 92 days, sending me my own address and things like that, so that I knew that if I did anything, if I blocked him again, he could come to my house and hurt me. So there were a lot of threats in that way as well that I didn't explain in the first video. But Todd, my real perpetrator, who had taken over Dave's identity, when he was Todd, there became a point in school where I no longer wanted to be friends with him because he began to get increasingly strange and increasingly touchy, and there was just a vibe that I started getting that made me feel extremely uncomfortable. So I was very clear in the fact that I didn't want to be friends anymore and I wanted distance, and this was not received very well. So as a result of that, he began to corner me in the hallways at school, and he would come up to my friends. My friends started laughing, calling him my fake boyfriend, because he would be everywhere that I turned, and would not leave me alone. And I was scared of him. He scared me. But he was also very pathetic, and I also knew that as well, that he was following a 15-year-old girl who wanted nothing to do with him. But he would I had a boyfriend at the time, and he would even go as far to go to my boyfriend and talk to him, or even my brother, who also attended the same high school as I did, and would use them as a manipulation tactic. And that's what perpetrators do. They're so incredibly savvy and smart with all of these different tools that they've learned to use to keep victims scared and keep them in control. And so when people ask me how my victimization lasted for 92 days, that's what I explained to them. But it isn't that easy to explain because there's so many levels to this crime, because it is such a intense and embarrassing, when it shouldn't be, crime to experience. Because as a kid, you don't want to go and tell anyone that you've sent sexually explicit pictures to someone online who's threatening you. That's not something that you're just gonna say, hey, this happened to me. It's very much swept under the rug, very much hush hush. And that is one of the big problems about sextortion, because then a lot of people don't know what it is and it's not educated on. I've talked to many people that speak at schools. I also speak at high schools and colleges about my story, this topic. But I've talked to a lot of other people who do the same thing, and they've said time and time again that they don't get very many schools that are willing and accepting of us sharing our sextortion stories or talking about sextortion in an age-appropriate manner, because it is such a taboo. And that's just so unfortunate, because then it leads to so many more kids experiencing sextortion because they have no idea of the knowledge that they could be equipped with to ensure that they don't experience those crimes. So the effects that the sextortion crime had on me were astronomical. I began to flinch every time my phone ringed or dinged or anything. I would be paralyzed with fear for years to come, because it was a 92-day victimization that happened every morning, every night, every day during school. It was constant. And so to experience something like that for so long, the manipulation is so ingrained into you, and that fear, post-traumatic stress is very much a part of your daily life. So it affected me in so many ways, but I was able to heal from that experience, still healing from that experience. I mean, I don't think that those things are just an easy, quick fix, and fix isn't the right word. The ways that I was able to cope with my victimization and get through what I experienced was to be able to talk about it and to be able to have an outlet. So my outlets were creative outlets, so writing and speaking and painting and all of these different things. I really liked to do things with my body to like move, so yoga, gymnastics, aerial silks yoga. There were so many different things like that, like hobbies that I would use as a coping mechanism, as well as on top of traditional therapy. So traditional therapy would be talk therapy, but then I also went through EMDR, which I'm going to make a separate video on in the future. It stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and is a great therapy that I highly recommend for those who are healed enough in their journey to be able to have those traumatic experiences come back into the forefront of their mind. But I suffered severe anxiety, and I graduated in 3 years from high school because I was triggered everywhere I would go in my high school. And no one in my high school was aware of that at the time, because it was a criminal case that was going on at the time and didn't conclude until I was halfway through my freshman year of college. Some questions that I get are, how did you continue on at school right after all of this happened, when you knew that he could return to school at any point because he hadn't yet been suspended. And for that, I just say I ended up taking my final exams in the associate principal's office because I didn't feel comfortable being around, like in the classroom, because he could come at any moment. And in fact, the faculty at my high school didn't feel that it was safe for me to be in that classroom either. I took a break from school for, I would say, about a week, I believe, maybe 2. But it was very difficult, and that was after the fact that I found out that Todd, the guy who had been stalking me, was in fact the person that stole the identity of Dave, who I had then confronted and had recreated some sort of a friendship or acquaintance with. I would be very interested to hear any questions that other people might have after this video on sextortion. I have a video on what is sextortion, which I'll have right here, that is really informative about different ways that you can educate those around you, especially children, that I think is extremely useful. So thank you so much for watching this video and for taking the time to listen to my story. I hope that you go forward and educate others. And thank you so much for watching.